Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. Okay. And hopefully you've been subscribing and liking the videos because I often refer to older videos. It's an easy way to find them. Okay, so recently I got the Line 6 HX effects. Alright, multi-effects unit from Line 6. It was a used one. It was about $3.50, and I've had it now for about 2 weeks approximately, maybe a little less than that. And well, I wanted to share a few things about it with you. Very first thing is the tuner, right? And you're thinking, well, tuner, big whoop, right? No big deal. However, I discovered that it makes a huge difference. Wow, I'm surprised. You know. And quite frankly, I'm not that big a fan of tuners, you know. I mean, I use the Snark tuner, but I have to admit, the tuner on the HX effects is quite exceptional. I mean, it really is. In fact, I'll show it to you here. Alright, so here's the HX effects. And if I hold down this button right here, it switches over to the tuner. Right, and it uses all 6 of the scribble strips. Right. Okay, and here we're at 440 kilohertz. So if I hit the and it cuts off all the sound to it. At least that's the way I have it set up. But let me show you. For example, if I hit this E string, you'll notice down here it says E. There's a center line. So you'll see I'm off a little bit. So I can tune that up a little. Oops. There we go. Oh, there we go. Well, pretty close anyway. There we go, there's an E. And even the 2 center lights turn green, right? When you've got it tuned like that. So you wouldn't think that'd be a big deal, but I'm telling you, it really made a big difference as far as tuning the guitar. Right? This thing is pretty accurate. You know, and it's a really easy way to tune the guitar, and very convenient as well. So definitely worthwhile in that respect. Okay, now, as I had mentioned, the way I set up my pedal board, the HX effects here, or even the Plethora X5, is pretty basic, really. Let's say the Plethora X5, it has 5 slots, 5 effects if you like, right? And so you always start off with either a clean sound, or that kind of thing. And I've got some of the presets that I use all the time. So on the HXFX, each preset has 4 scenes or snapshots, alright, which is basically you're still in the preset, but you can change those 4 snapshots to turn things on and off and that kind of thing. In other words, if a preset has an octaver and a reverb, right, you could have one of the scenes be the octaver and one of the scenes be the reverb, and then another scene or snapshot, if you like, have both on or both off and that kind of thing, as well as even changing the parameters of each effect. And so basically that's what I did, is I kind of set it up whereas each preset is kind of like a board as found on the Plethora X5, right, where you have basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 effects, and usually I set them up where the very first one is the bass octaver, right, and that's on every preset, and the N is a looper, right, at the very end, and then in between I can change to delays or reverbs, in other words, different guitar sounds. Well, it's the same idea here. For each preset, right, I can choose up to 9 effects, but really, I use 6 at the moment, right, 1 for each foot switch, and set up a scenes, or snapshots for each preset. So let me show you that. All right. So here, for example, we have got the presets. Right. So basically, I can come here and choose a preset. So let's do, in this instant, we'll choose this one, which I made, which is 3A, which is called Clean Air. So I click that button. Now I'm in Clean Air, and as you can tell, I've got 6 effects, okay? And they include a bass octaver, plateau reverb, 1 switch looper, and then down here we got the swell kind of effect, and then here we have a crossover delay called crisscross, and then a glitz reverb. Okay, so that's preset 3A. However, what I do then is I hit this mode button, right? It takes me back to the presets, and if I hit these 2 bank buttons together, right? Oops. Here are my snapshots for that preset. And number 1 is clean, number 2 is bass, number 3 is swell, it's kind of hard to see, and number 4 is effect swell. Okay, those are the 4 basic sounds. So let's hit clean. Okay, and you'll notice that it turns on the crisscross delay and the reverb, but everything else is turned off. Though it's still active, if I wanted to add the bass, for example, you just hit it and it would turn on. Well, it's the same thing with the with the one switch looper, right here, you know. And I could have set it to a 6 switch looper, but the one switch just makes it kind of simple. Alright, so we're at the clean sound. And here's the thing that's really cool is that I took this preset and copied it over and over again, right? And then I can just go in and switch the effects and things, right? But I always have bass set up as snapshot 2 and the looper as well. So every preset has the bass, the looper, and the swell effect, right? And those are some of my favorites. Alright, so here I'm on the first snapshot, which is a clean sound, which in this preset is this kind of sound. Okay, so there's the clean sound. So at this point I can engage the looper to build a loop, right? So let's do that. Just real simple. Another snapshot. And I'll hit the bass snapshot to add a bass sound. Overdub the bass loop. There's our bass. So now I'll go to the next snapshot. And here I've got two choices. The first one is swell, and the other one is effect swell. So I'll choose swell. So now I can overdub it in a swell sound. It's kind of like this. picked up a little click in there for some reason. Alright, so anyway, that's one preset. And let's say I go to preset 3D, right, which is called phaser. And so I'll do the same thing here, right? Come back out after selecting it and choose the snapshots, right? So the first one on this preset is kind of a phaser sound, right? So I'll do a loop here. So in other words, every preset, right, has the bass sound, the looper, and the swell sound. And the swell sound, is, I'll demonstrate it for you. It's just basically where you don't hear the initial pick attack. Right, so it sounds almost like a keyboard kind of thing. What's cool is you can have the swell sound on each preset, but it'll share the sound of the preset. It's kind of hard to explain. Okay, and so of course, what I did then is just made banks of them, right, of tons of presets. For example, here's 4C, and it's the same concept, but just with different sound. In fact, this one has a synth sound. But if I start, it's just a clean sound. So I'll loop that. Okay, so that was another preset. It's kind of a synthesizer-ish kind of preset. And there are just tons and tons of these. And now here's the fun part, is you can name them all so you can recognize what they are. Here's one called 6C. I'm not sure what it is, honestly. Let's find out. But you'll notice here it's kind of the same concept, right? Clean sound, bass, swell, effects swell, and of course the looper in each preset. So here's one, and this starts out with a clean sound, right? So I can loop that. Okay, so that's the basic idea. I've set it up this way to where each preset has the 4 snapshots, right? One of them includes bass sound, the swell sound, and the looper are constants. And then just switching to different clean sounds and delayed sounds and synthesizer sounds and so on, right? And so each preset then becomes this kind of little pedal board where I can create a loop and that kind of thing without ever leaving the preset. And so far, you know, I've had this thing about 2 weeks. It's just been fantastic. I mean, the loops are great, and when I switch presets, I can obviously change the loops, and the clean sounds change as well. So, pretty neat. Pretty neat. Now, here's the thing. To try to customize it further, I investigated having snapshots directly in the preset and thing through the command center, which is kind of like settings, kind of like a global setting, and then where you can basically assign foot switches to do different things. Now ideally, the one thing I don't like about it is that to actually get into the snapshots of a preset, right, from the bank page, if you like, right, let's say I click 6D, right, and now I want to go into the presets, that I have to hit 2 buttons to access the presets, right, and it has to be done pretty fast. So here are the presets: clean, bass, swell, effect swell, for this particular preset. So that's not ideal. Ideally, I wish I had a button that I could just hit it and go right to the snapshots page like I have here. But I'm getting used to it. And so far I've tried programming little, different foot switches and things to do that, but so far I've been unsuccessful. So who knows, maybe if I work with it some more, I'll be able to find that. Okay. The other thing is, I went ahead and hooked up the editor. Alright, let me show you that real quick. Let me bring it up. Alright, so there's the online editor. Pretty cool. You've got your effects here across the top. Right? And it makes it very easy to rename presets and to name snapshots and things. And bring up different presets as well. And with the online editor, you really have control over not only the effects, but the parameters inside the effects. But I've also been using it to name snapshots. For example, snapshot 2 is always going to be bass, for example, and 3 will always be swell on each preset, right? Which is very cool because those are some of my favorites off my pedal board, right? Which has not an HX effects but an HX1, which is similar to this but with only one sound at once, right? So there you go. It's been 2 weeks and I'm absolutely thrilled with this pedal, and almost as if it was designed for me, for what I'm trying to do as far as the looping goes and the bass sounds. And I always thought Line 6 had so far the best octave or bass sounds I've heard from any pedal, So there you go. Now, of course, just like my presets on my pedal board, right, that I create, I'll find some of the presets I create here on the HX effects will be better than others, right? So I'll kind of whittle them down to my favorites that work for me, Okay, listen, overall, this pedal is a real game changer. I mean, it's really amazing. It gives me the sounds that I want. I'm able to do my looping. If I had any criticisms, it would be having to hit the 2 bank buttons together to get into snapshot mode. And also, well, the length of the loops could be a little longer. I mean, they're okay, they're fine. But ideally, if you could get a little longer loop times, and I'm sure there are ways to do that a little bit anyway. Those are my 2 criticisms I've found, and both of them are kind of minor, really. as far as the loop time, what I could do is, remember there are 9 effects in here, but I'm not using all 9, so maybe removing those might give me a little longer loop time. I'm not sure. I have to find out. So that's where I'm at with it, 2 weeks in, and pretty thrilled with it, yeah. You know, and it's always fun to create a new preset with a sound that you hadn't used before. You know, that might lend itself well to this kind of setup. You know, and then there's also setting up parallel effects and those kinds of things, right? Which I haven't delved into too much. So far they've been all serial effects, right? Parallel effects is where you drop an effect down and it runs at the same time as both effects at once, rather than one going into the other. That makes sense. Alright, so in any case, the more I work with it, the more I customize it for my uses, you know, and that just makes it fantastic, you know. And if I ever want another one of these, I want the same settings and things. With the online editor, you can export all the presets, you know, and save them to a file. So if I got another one of these and I wanted it the same as this one, I could import the presets that I have saved into the board. Alright, so I wanted to share that with you. Pretty amazing. Okay, this is 2 weeks in, and then we'll do a month in or something like that and see where I'm at with it. Alright, very good. I'll see you next time. Okay. Bye.